I see a lot of people saying that this is going to be a future cult movie. I'm not sure about that.
Drive-by movies, you're watching
Fresh releases.
My name's Blaise.
And I'm James.
And this week we're talking the Shudder original, The Ugly Stepsister.
Going crazy, I've lost my mind.
The Ugly Stepsister has been making rounds on Film Talk, on TikTok, as well as Letterboxd. It follows Elvira as she battles against her gorgeous stepsister in a realm where beauty reigns supreme. She resorts to extreme measures to captivate the prince amidst a ruthless competition for physical perfection. So that is quite the description for the movie, and quite happens what we happen to see within this movie. This movie gets pretty wild and is definitely like going to be fun for anyone who's a fan of the Grimm Fairytale version. I've never read it, but I've always been told what happens towards the end of the Grimm Fairytale version of Cinderella, and we get that as well as a lot more. What are your thoughts coming out of it, Blaise?
So we've got a ton of different versions of Cinderella. Obviously, you have the original Disney version, you have the Disney live action version, and those I would say generally for either families or children. Like you mentioned, the Grimm Fairytale versions, but this is like the true adult version that's also told from a different perspective. You get this kind of gory, body horror-esque Cinderella story that, I mean, it's not really a Cinderella story because it's told from a different perspective, but it really does remind me of those books that came out when we were children, where it was like the true story of the Big Bad Wolf, where it's the story of the three little piggies, but told from the Big Bad Wolf's perspective, and shows that he's not really a bad guy, he actually just had a cold. So I like that this kind of takes that other approach of telling this story from a different perspective. We're being told from the stepsister and not Cinderella's perspective. And I thought that this was really effective. It definitely could get squeamish for some viewers at a lot of points throughout this movie, because it is highly, an adult movie, and it's just kind of, told in from this interesting perspective, but the body horror elements are there.
Absolutely, and very unexpected too. Like, we get some of the sequences that you would expect with like some of the gore, but one of the scenes is dragged out, like kind of literally also, or I guess you could say pulled out at one sequence. But yeah, I was really surprised by how well this movie was made. First off, the cinematography is fantastic, the use of colors, and the interesting use of like an electronic pop soundtrack also for a movie like this. It didn't make sense, but still fit the vibe of the movie and worked well, and kept me thoroughly entertained just listening to the movie. I thought the performances were great, and Cinderella is a story we all know. My only complaint with the movie is, I guess, like kind of the ending. We kind of make the this character Elvira a little bit more sympathetic, and kind of Cinderella a little bit more just like just kind of turn offish, to where you're just like not into her. Like, Elvira does have her bratty moments in the movie, but overall she's a very likable character that we follow. And minor spoilers, like I wish we could have got a little bit more of like a happier-esque ending for her. Not that like anything crazy, like with, again, I don't want to spoil too much, but just like the movie still kind of ends how you would expect from a Cinderella style story, and I wish it didn't go in that direction, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I wouldn't say like I hated that aspect of it. One thing I really loved about the movie, though, was that I know it's an international film. This is from Norway. It's probably a little bit lower of a budget, but it never really did feel that way. A lot of the practical effects did feel, like fairly, higher budget. They never felt like they were kind of from a lower budget. And the costumes, especially your period piece costumes, are really well done. And all the sets and production design are really, like, I feel like punching above their weight and done really well, to where this film feels like a higher budget or mid-range budget movie, as opposed to probably where that budget kind of laid. But yeah, I thought that this was... It was a film that made its rounds at the festivals, and it was definitely a smart, film for Shudder to pick up, because this had a little bit of clout going into it, had a little bit of buzz, and I feel like I have seen a lot of people talk about this movie.
Yeah, honestly, these are the kind of movies that shine during the Oscar season, whether it's an indie or just like a movie that's like kind of higher up, like by Focus or something, Focus Features, I mean. And, you know, if this movie kind of came out closer towards award season, you know, I'm not saying it would have had the same success as maybe like The Substance or anything, but I easily could have seen this being, you know, nominated for best makeup effects and best costumes too, because everything looks fantastic. And not only that, like, you know, when you have a horror, when it's mixed into the horror subgenre, there's just so many fun characteristics they added into within this movie. So, you know, best costumes, you think of like some of the extravagant dresses we see, but I was really impressed with this like nose job thing that this character wears throughout the movie. It's, you know, makes you feel like unsettled to kind of watch it. Of course, the sequence is brutal, and just like I was like, there's no way we're going in this direction, we're gonna see it. And nope, that you see it twice.
Brutal. I will say that this is I thought that this is the directorial debut of Emily Blegfeld, and I thought that this was just a really big swing for a directorial debut. It reminds me of other, you know, major films directed by female first-time directors like Julie Ducournau with Raw, and also Coralie Farge with Revenge. I feel like I'm looking really forward to the sophomore film for Emily Blegfeld, because, you know, the pedigree of the past female filmmakers that have made genre movies as their first movie, they've really, you know, come out swinging and continually, you know, come out with movies that are very interesting and feel like something we haven't seen before. And that if she follows along that same kind of path that these previous female filmmakers kind of laid, I'm looking, you know, really forward to her career. But yeah, like this movie, when it really goes there, it goes there in a lot of these gory kind of scenes. There's, to get into a little bit of spoilers, this epic like kind of practical effects with this tapeworm, which is something that I feel like if anyone's done any little bit of history when it comes to like women staying thin in history, is like they always, I guess I had heard at least stories of, yeah, like people utilizing tapeworms back in the day when, you know, medical science wasn't that far, that they would kind of like ingest maybe the eggs from a tapeworm or something. And a lot of those scenes were absolutely gut-wrenching and disgusting, but I felt like they were filmed really well, where it was just so like, ooh, I don't know about that.
Also, they saved it for the right moments too, because, you know, we have this big extravagant event towards the end of the movie, and, you know, I knew that wasn't going to be the ending of the movie there. I knew that there was still going to be kind of like that final 15-minute you know, wind down as the movie ends after the ball. But, you know, I was expecting this tapeworm sequence to take place there, but nope, we're treated to it still, you know, kind of towards the end of the movie. And just I see a lot of people saying that this is going to be a future cult movie. I'm not sure about that, but I see it definitely just standing the test of time of just having like a big audience that just always recommends this movie and kind of sees it more as like just a classic, because there isn't really a lot like it. Like the closest movie I could think to it, like in terms of style, is The Fly, but it's still very much its own thing just because it's set in, you know, it's got this fairy tale take on it, but it's beautifully shot and levels above a lot of other directorial debuts. So there's a lot going for this movie, to where I don't necessarily see it as a cult movie. I just see it as being a good movie that just people are going to be raving about for quite some time.
To play devil's advocate a little bit, I do feel like that it can be cult-esque, because it's not like the scenes where there's not really any gore, any like body horror, anything kind of that make it a genre movie, could kind of stand on its own. As like if you just walked in the room and saw some of these scenes where, like, especially thinking about the ball, Prince Charming's ball, like you might not even know that this is, you know, a genre movie, or the kind of twists and turns that this film can take. You might just see it as like, oh, this might be like a, you know, BBC One period drama or something, you know, maybe along the lines of like Downton Abbey or something. Like it's shot really well, and I feel like that kind of like dichotomy between like this kind of period drama versus some of these grotesque scenes, especially where you see Elvira like kind of decreasing the size of her foot to fit in the glass slipper. It's not a glass slipper, but the slipper, basically that kind of like dichotomy between those two instances definitely make this film feel kind of cult-esque to me, kind of like a John Waters movie or something like that.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. No, I agree with that in aspects, but yeah, it's and not only that, also like it looks like just like a movie that you would watch on a different channel than just out of nowhere. There's these like 4 violent sequences that kind of like take it up a level, but I was also caught off guard by the graphic sexuality used in this movie too. I was just like, okay, we're going with this extreme close-up of a schlong during one sequence, and I was just like, all right. And then also lingering of the finisher upper inside the stables with the horses. I was that caught me off guard.
Back shots.
Yep. Yeah.
I think that's what that's called. I think that's what the kids say nowadays. But yeah, I would say I recommend this movie. Definitely, if you have Shudder, it's something different that's kind of appeared on there. I feel like it has, elements where it might seem like more like a Shudder movie, but it has a lot where it feels like it's kind of not. So I think it's that perfect watch on Shudder where you're getting something different. That's the thing I like about Shudder is they have, all subgenres of horror, and it's really got something for everyone, I guess, when it comes to that genre specifically. So definitely, if you have Shudder, I would say check this movie out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've actually realized that a couple of movies on Shudder are slowly making their way onto Hulu. I don't think forever. I think just for like a little bit. So eventually, if it makes its way on there, definitely check it out if you have either app. You can also help support the show by renting it through our Amazon affiliate link in our description box below. And leave a comment also, letting us know what you thought about The Ugly Stepsister.
And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and click that notification bell to get all the latest updates.
And speaking of updates, catch all our social media links down below for Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and also our own Letterboxd accounts. That's it for this week. Tune in next week for a brand new video.